Speaker reminded the House that on Wednesday, 26 June 2024, when the House was considering the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the presidential appointment of Mr. Kefas Kampamba Katongo and Ms. Iba Jala to serve as members of the Judicial Complaints Commission JCC and Mr. Jack Kalala to serve as member of the Anti-Corruption Commission ACC board, and Mr. El Simumba, member of Parliament for Nakonde, was debating, Honorable Gary Jinkombo, MP, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, raised a point of order as to whether Mr. El Simumba, MP, was in order to make statements that had no connection to the motion on the floor of the House.
In rendering her ruling, Madam Speaker referred to Standing Order 139 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, which required a member raising a point of order to cite Standing Order, law on privilege of members, rule of procedure or practice that had allegedly been breached.
Madam Speaker informed the House that the verbatim record of the proceedings of the Ministerial day revealed that in raising his point of order, Honorable Gary Jinkombo, MP, did not cite the Standing Order, law on privilege of members, rule of procedure or practice that had allegedly been breached as required Standing Order 139. She therefore ruled the point of order was inadmissible.
Madam Speaker proceeded to guide the House to adhere to prescribed procedure pertaining to the raising of points of orders.
After that, 3 urgent matters without notice were raised under Standing Order 142, and the first one came from Kamfinsa, Member of Parliament, Mr. Christopher Kangombe, and this was on the subject matter on the job security of employees of Invest Trust Bank PLC in possession, and so this matter was inadmissible.
The second matter came from Pambashe, Member of Parliament, Mr. Ronald Chitotela, and his subject matter was on the measures being taken to maintain law and order in Mansa district following riots at Chiliampa and Senama markets. This matter was inadmissible.
The third matter came from Chitambo, Member of Parliament, Mr. Remember Mutale. This was on the poor network connectivity experienced in some parts of the country, and so this matter was equally inadmissible.
Thereafter, the Minister of Finance and National Planning made a statement on the proposed ban on the use of foreign currency for local financial transactions and the phasing out of checks following a directive by Madam Speaker on an urgent matter without notice raised by Mr. A. Mumba, Member of Parliament for Kantanshi on Tuesday, 9th July 2024. The Minister briefed the House on the process of the proposed foreign currency regulation and ongoing consultations regarding phasing out of checks.
After that ministerial statement, Ron Member of Parliament, Mr. Joel Chiuye, moved a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters on the ratification of the International Agreement on the Southern African Development Protocol on Industry for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 8th July 2024, and this motion was seconded by Lufu, Member of Parliament, Mr. Wesley Kolaland. We saw members of Parliament debating this report. When a question was put, this motion was adopted.
And after the consideration of the report, the House resolved into Committee of Supply for the consideration of supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2024. And we did see the Committee of Supply consider 6 heads, the first one being Head 68, Ministry of Tourism, with a total allocation of 206,177,229 agreed to.
Another head that was considered is Head 80, Ministry of Education, and the total amount of 561,393,428 was agreed to.
Head 92, Head 86, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, 390,380,325 kwacha agreed to.
Another head that was considered is Head 92, Office of the President, Central Province, and the total amount of 2,000,000 348,233 was agreed to.
And Head 98 Office of the President, Southern Province, with a total allocation of 13,038,919 kwacha agreed to.
Another head that was considered is Head 99, Constitutional and Statutory Expenditure, Ministry of Finance and National Planning, and the total amount of 14,642,140,000 was agreed to. Thereafter, the supplementary estimates of expenditure 1 of 2024 was reported without amendment, and the report was considered by leave of the House. The Committee of Supply resolved that the report of the Committee of Supply be adopted, and so the bill was ordered to be brought in on the said resolution by Madam Speaker.
And we did see the Minister of Finance and National Planning present the Supplementary Appropriation 2024 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2024. The bill was read the first time, and we expect the bill to be read the second time today, Friday. The House adjourned accordingly at 17:39 hours. We now shift our attention to today's order paper. Matimba.
Yes, Taza, today, Friday, 12 July 2024, on the order paper we have announcements. If there will be any urgent matters without notice, however, the Vice President's question time, a ministerial statement, 2 questions for oral answer, 1 committee report, and 1 bill which is coming at second reading stage. And so on your screen is Madam Speaker's procession. Just now we cross over to the chamber. Good morning.
Members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Tendency of Zambia, proud and free, land of faith and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those who blend. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise thee, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have one announcement to make, and this is, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Shakespeare College in Kablonga, Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. Thank you. You may take your seat. Urgent matters without notice. There is one indication. The honorable member for Mufurira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the matter I wish to raise directed at the Minister of Education regarding the happenings at the University of Zambia.
You may proceed, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, we all know the danger that is posed to the property and life when there is unrest at the University of Zambia. This week, we have seen peaceful protests by the staff at the University of Zambia demanding payment of their dues and threatening that any students that will report come Monday will report at their own peril because they will not be attended to. Madam Speaker, the students are not sure whether to report on Monday or not. Parents are not sure whether to send their parents or not. I seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker, as to why the Minister of Education has remained mute without addressing this issue so that to settle the matter and all the parties know where they stand. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, honorable member from Mufurira. Of course, the matter that you have raised is of great concern and very important, but the honorable Minister of Education has already taken measures to address the situation. So we don't want to wait until Tuesday next week to come with a ministerial statement. It will be too late. But the minister is on top of things and is addressing the situation. So we wait and see how it goes. We can make progress. I've not said anything yet. Her Honor, the Vice President, I don't know now. No, let's clear, because clear that, yes. I've not said anything. Supposing we are skipping this item, what will happen? Okay. Her Honor, the Vice President's question time. The Honorable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President, just a few days ago, the Reformed Church in Zambia did actually call upon the President to have some negotiations or discussions with the other political players in the country. If you look at the past history, our colleagues from the other side, they failed to involve the church to carry on with the negotiations. I just wanted to find out, what is your government or our government going to do with the issue of the church wanting up to take the role of the negotiations?
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would like to thank the Honorable Member for Kabwata for bringing the issue of dialogue. I don't know whether it's negotiation or probably dialogue that was suggested by the church. I think that in any developed society, dialogue is extremely important for people to resolve any differences. And therefore, this government would want to encourage and agree with the church that there is need for dialogue in the country to resolve, whatever may be perceived, differences in our country. Because we are still one people thinking from different angles, but coming together, we can always find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have heard that there was a case involving two directors at a mining company in Northwestern Province who had illegally transferred $2.3 billion to Panama. And they were arrested under the previous regime. But after this regime came into power, that case was dropped, and ZCCMIH shares in FQM surrendered to FQM. Madam Speaker, we have also seen what is trending in the FIC report for 2023, where 13 billion kwacha is alleged to have gone into offshore accounts. A renowned professor of law, Professor Obrien Kaba, yesterday wrote an article where he alleged that state chambers are a clearinghouse for corruption and deals. This is a commissioner at the Anti-Corruption Commission, Madam Speaker. My question to our Honor the Vice President is this government's fight against corruption selective? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Our Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would like to thank the Honorable Member from Pika who brings out quite a number of issues. And he is speaking of people that were arrested, for taking money or offshore, and then the FIC report, and that the state chambers are now corrupt. But I think that it would be important for the Honorable to be a little more specific. For me, really, some of these things I am not aware. I would start to tell lies in here. I would need to find out a little more for me to respond to the issues that the Honorable Member has raised. Thank you.
Maybe just in addition, there was a question, there was a matter of agent matter without notice. I don't know whether it's the Honorable Member from Ghana or Kamfinsa who asked about the FIC report, and I had advised that they put in a question. Maybe we can leave that to the relevant ministry, because that issue is more specific. So in accordance with our standing orders, we should ask questions that touch on policy, not too specific, because then that puts Her Honor the Vice President in an awkward position. She will not have the information. The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I would like to find out from Her Honor, the Vice President, the rationale behind the mopping out of Constituency Development Fund from the councils. This is happening especially when, just when the project is completed, you discover that money has been mopped out. We have also instances where equipment, earth-moving equipment has been procured. A few days before arrival, money is mopped out. And the blame is usually passed on to us, the MPs, who are not even anywhere closer to this rationale. So I would like to find out, Your Honor, what this measure is actually curing, because the blame is being passed on to us as members of Parliament. Thank you so much, Your.
Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Kwacha on his concern, which, if I understand, is that money that is supposed to go or is already allocated to the Constituency Development Fund is mopped away back by the Treasury. Is that what I understand? Yeah, I think you remember that this was done even, I think, towards the end of the year, last year. Because this money keeps lying in the accounts without being used. And when government needs money, that's the issue. Remember, Honorable...
Order, honorable members. Can we have order and listen to the answer? Please give her Honor the Vice President time to explain. Her Honor the Vice President.
I am giving a general picture here of what I am made aware of. If there is something that I miss out, I think we should go to the particular ministries or bring a particular answer. But the general picture is that government cannot leave money when they need money. That is still government money. When there is another need and money is not being used. Remember the last year, I think it was towards the end of the year, Madam Speaker, that we even mentioned some constituencies where the actual disbursement of the money from the council was at 3%. So what do you do with this money if there is need for use? It doesn't mean that money will not come back. It will. It will, definitely, because it is committed to that. But when government needs money, I'm sure the minister, the treasury, will say, let's use the money, which is still government money, rather than leave it like that. But I think you have talked of when you have already procured, something like equipment, and then the money is mopped, away, and therefore you cannot pay instantly. I think there is a chain of communication that you can quickly, get to the treasury so that money is paid. But to leave money in the different commercial banks and not being used, I think it is not a very good thing, because government still needs to use money. There must be movement of currency throughout in the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. The Vice President, good morning. We knew you as Narumangonomics. Now I don't know how to describe you. The Minister for Agriculture was in this Parliament with Madam Speaker, and he says, we will not ever stop exporting maize, and your neighbor, the Minister of Finance, confirmed that when His Excellency the President of Zambia visited Tanzania, they negotiated with a Tanzanian counterpart and sold maize to Tanzania. And you're on record, Your Honor, the Vice President. The video is there on, yes, the video is there on ZNBC. And Your Honor, the Vice President, in Kawambwa, I did intercept trucks. And we had a conversation with the truck drivers who showed me the loading orders signed from Lusaka to load maize in Kawambwa sheds to Tanzania. And you said you've never sold maize to Tanzania. Who's telling the Zambian people the truth? Is it that you are not given the full information by your counterparts in government so that you look lost, or you are misleading the Zambian people? I thank you, Honor. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Before I call Honor the Vice President, Honorable Member for Pambashe, do you have copies of those loading schedules which you have referred to?
They were government documents. I could not confiscate them.
So since they are not before this Honorable House, then they cannot be referred to. Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This issue can even be called tedious in this House. tedious repetition, madam, because we have been talking about this maize export almost every week it comes out. Now, Lumangonomics still remains, and it is the honorable member, madam, who coined that himself. So now if you want to change, you can change, but it is there. We will always remain truthful. I can't even imagine that the Minister of Finance said he had negotiated with Tanzania to sell Zambian maize to Tanzania. And maybe you misunderstood the importation that we are talking about now. Otherwise, such a situation has never arisen. There has never been a negotiation for sale of maize to Tanzania, government to government. No, don't use social media. Because you are not, what is their generation code? And I think we are failing to understand them. Maybe the language they are using. Surely I'm not aware of such an arrangement where Zambian government was to sell maize either to Tanzanian, government. It has never been there. What we have been saying is the truth. Please don't twist the truth. What we have said on this floor, madam, is that this government did not directly sell any maize. Tanzania completely out. I think that is why, because we said some private sector, with the authority indeed of government, they did sell maize. Private sector buy and then they go and sell. But the reality is, we have said the maize we sold was not government maize, madam. It was maize that belonged to farmers, because farmers had not been paid. There was need to raise money and pay the farmers. I think this is what we have been repeating in this house. So I don't know where that comes from. The issue of somebody loading in Kawambwa, madam, where they were going, they must have bought that maize. Were they loading on behalf of government? No. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to ask Her Honor the Vice President a question. It's always a pleasure for the people of Solwezi East to add a voice. Madam Speaker, through you, in 2020, the Tobacco Control Bill was drafted, and the objects of the bill were to declare tobacco control, tobacco device, nicotine product, or nicotine device as restricted product, provide for the protection of present and future generations, like those seated up there, from the devastating health, social, environmental, and economic consequences of tobacco use, nicotine addiction, and exposure to the harmful emissions of tobacco products, tobacco devices, nicotine products, and nicotine devices, among others. Madam Speaker, the government has had efforts through different stakeholders to see this bill come to light so that we are able to protect lives from this devastating effect of tobacco. The people of Solwezi East would like to know the government's position as at now when this bill will come to Parliament and see light so that we are able to protect the future generation from this ever-increasing devastating effect of tobacco. So that is my submission, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Her Honor the Vice President.
I know that the bill has really been on the table for a long time, but I can assure the Minister that, the Honorable Member for Solwezi, that the bill will see the light this time around. It has gone through the processes, and the last one is almost to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bwacha.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity Good morning, Madam Vice President, and peace be with you. Your Honor, the Vice President, our country, as everyone is aware, experienced a drought during the 2023-2024 rain season. And the drought affected the whole country, which has affected the food security at household and national level in more than 82 districts. Madam Speaker, Your Honor, the Vice President, through your office, relief maize and food for work are being distributed to the affected constituencies and the districts. Your Honor, this program of distributing food has been characterized with lapses. Like most of the honorable members in this House, from both ends, the right and the left, are not involved in the selection of the beneficiaries. The criteria of selecting of beneficiaries is also not very clear. Days and dates to distribute the maize in wards and constituencies is not known or only known by very few individuals, and some people are left out because they belong to other political parties, are not the ruling party. Madam Vice President, through the Speaker, is the relief maize only meant for few selected citizens of this country? Is it too late to involve honorable members of this august House in the selection criteria and distribution of maize to the beneficiaries? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning, Honorable Member for Bwacha. Indeed, you give a background of what has happened, which all of us know, the drought that has affected many people, and on record we are saying 84 districts affected. The question is very genuine, except towards the end, Honorable. I must say this government will not look and has not looked at political affiliation as a reason for selecting any person to be on this program. This program is to save lives. I think last week I spent a bit of time explaining the way we are approaching this, and I'm sure those who are here will remember. Now you are looking at the criteria. Which criteria are we using? If you have any proposal, you can, but I'll give you the criteria in the districts that we have. Number one, even last week, Madam, I said it is over 2.8 million people affected. That's huge. But out of those affected, it's not everybody who becomes the beneficiary of what you have called the cash for work or relief. Not everybody. We only have 6.6. They'll tell you 6.5 whatever, but let's use 6.6 million people are the ones that have been identified as being people that are fully vulnerable because they have no alternative livelihoods. They don't have other coping mechanisms. So what is the criteria? There is the general criteria that the Ministry of Community uses to identify the vulnerable. I think we know that. We already know that normally it's woman-headed homes. Those are already vulnerable, and therefore they are picked already under the drought. Child-headed homes are also vulnerable and are picked by the drought response. There are also pregnant women and lactating mothers. These are also picked as another criteria. We also have people that are chronically ill. That is another category of people that must be picked. Generally, these will be picked. Now, community has already the program of social cash transfer, but this was not picking as many. Some definitely were left out because of the amount of money available to them. Now, under this drought, others have also been picked, those that were left out under this category. So there are others that have also been picked. So when, honorables, you go to your constituents, you look at these categories that I've mentioned. If somebody has been left out, I think it is important that we get feedback. This must be part of feedback to the government to see that indeed we have left out some. But I'll tell you, there is another group that is under emergency social cash transfer, because these are normally people that are able to cope under normal. They are able to cultivate and live on that. They have fallen vulnerable because of the drought. If there was no drought, they would have continued. These have also been added under what is being called emergency social cash transfer and enhanced. Okay, because first we called it emergency. But let me say, well, this is enhancing the whole thing. But emergency, I'll still go to use the word that I'm comfortable with, honorable, because the emergency cash transfer, I want to say it in this august house, which sits politicians, madam. This is not a permanent arrangement, and we must know this, because next year, God giving us rain and people harvest, these are not permanent, they will be removed. Because I can see that next year when people are removed, we here will come and say, you have removed our people. Remember, this is a mitigating measure. And if rain, God gives us rain, all those that are on this emergency social cash transfer will be removed, because they will have once again gained their capacity to look after themselves. These are the categories. Those who have other coping mechanisms are part of the 4.2 million who will not get this support. Now, I have also mentioned in this, madam, the kind of support: social cash transfer, emergency cash transfer, and then those that are still strong, able. We can't feed the entire nation. There are those that are what you called food for work, but now it is cash for work. You get the money after you have worked, and then you buy. This is the way we are doing it. The selection should not be political. The selection should not be political, colleagues. We should draw a line between politics and life. After all, Zambian politics are not even permanent. You are not PF forever, neither are you UPND forever. Yeah. So you can't have, because we have people. The other day you were telling my minister, oh, that time you were MMD. Today is UPND. So why do we want to put life? And you say, no, it is us. This government, madam, will not and does not. No. Our officials are not necessarily part of the distribution and the identification. That is not we will have what you call work, see work. Those see works are in every word. They should help. The church should help. The PIP, the project implementing partners, are part of identification. If something, there is still time. I must be clear before you misunderstand me. This is a very important question, madam, because it hinges on life itself. If we don't do it right, and if you find a gap, please come. But there is nothing political. People must be fed and survive so that they'll vote for this caring government as time goes. We are a caring government, Madam Speaker. We are not political. If something wrong is happening and you have evidence, please come and tell us. Please come and tell us. Yes, the MPs, in fact, I did call. Maybe we should follow up. The issue, if you want us, those that are from constituencies that are affected, I think I said that, and maybe I need to follow up, that we need to sit maybe, and then you can bring out other things that you think we are not doing right, because we want to ensure no one, the president has said no one dies from hunger. This is why we are working with Tanzania to bring maize here, not the other way around. It didn't happen last year, neither is it happening. Maybe they sold it to Tanzania under other governments, not this government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have heard that through the question that the government is mopping up the funds from the CDF accounts. The main reason is that the money has been lying idle in the accounts. Now, Your Honor, what word of encouragement, a word of advice can you give to the officers in the councils who are going to be mandated to take part in the challenge of hunger through the payments of the work for cash, which is going to be under the Ministry of Local Government, to encourage them to move away from that old habit of not working for the people, where the monies for CDF were just lying idle, they were not paying contractors. This time now it is hunger, and they are the ones who are going to be given the money so that they pay the people in the communities who are going to work to alleviate or to reduce the challenge of this hunger caused by the drought. What word of encouragement can you give to the workers of the district councils in Zambia, especially those in the rural areas like Karao? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honorable Member for Kalabo for that concern. The concern is what happens, if this local government, we are seeing money being mopped out because it has not been used on time. I think that's the way I would put it. What will happen then when they are given the responsibility to give the cash for work? What is my advice to them? Really, my advice is, why should the attitude be so negative when you are dealing with other people? All I can say is local government, and I agree with you, must wake up, ensure that when you are given a responsibility, please, the money is disbursed to the beneficiaries so that they can survive. Because if you play with this money, people in your local council will end up dying. Is that what we want? So indeed, the people in local government must be geared, ready to ensure that when this money goes, the beneficiaries who will have done some public works are paid on time. That is the purpose, because the hunger will not wait for them to do meaningless procedures. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President, last year I've received that one of my wards out of 15, 9 villages, the bores have dried up, and Punde stream is dried up. And when we try to procure equipment, Madam Speaker, you may wish to know that government in its own wisdom, they have decided to start putting VAT and all taxes on the government equipment, their own equipment, which can help us to do maybe some earth dams here and there. Now, Madam Vice President, what is the rationale behind putting taxes on earth-moving equipment? Thank you.
Honour the Vice President.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Nimba. We understand the concern, really, and it's the concern of government on the boreholes. But on the issue of tax, I've not really been briefed. Maybe the Minister of Finance can come and explain that there is a new tax or something like that on the equipment. I'm not aware yet. That's what I would say. Maybe we can, like you guide, maybe you can ask an urgent question so that the Minister can give us the position properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member for Nyimba, put in an urgent question so that the Honourable Minister can address that concern. It's important. The Honourable Member for Lubanseshe.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Lubanseshe constituency to ask a question to the Honour the Vice President. Your Honour the Vice President, as you may be wish to know, that Zambia is facing with a lot of challenges in terms of construction of roads, which are key to economic development, issues to do with road shading, and other many challenges. And I would like to find out from you that there is a pronouncement that this year you are going to recruit more teachers and nurses. Looking at the situation and even after lining the budget, what is the government position in terms of recruiting teachers and nurses this year, 2024? I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Her Honour the Vice President.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Lubansenshi. Yes, indeed, thank you for noting that there are many challenges. But your concern is you have heard that there will be more recruitments. So basically you are saying what is the priority? Is that what I pick in your mind? That you would rather deal with these other issues than recruit? I think it is something, Madam Speaker, that is worthy discussing. Looking at, for example, the nurses, what is the situation on the ground? Would we take it as a priority or not? I think it is something I cannot give you concretely. But this was the plan before all these things befell us. That is the plan. We have not started to review on this particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chadiza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honour, the Vice President, I've received information from DACO's office that all farmers under FISIP are mandated to sell at least 10 bags of white maize this year. Madam Vice President, if those who won't be able to manage are risk being removed from the subsequent programs which are coming. Madam Vice President, we are all aware about what we experienced in the last farming season. We know about the devastational effects that we had from the drought, and most farmers hardly harvested anything. Having said that, Madam Vice President, how possible is it that the government is trying to instruct farmers to contribute minimum of 10 bags of white maize when they hardly harvested anything? I need your comment, Madam Vice President. Thank you.
Her Honour the Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for Chadiza. The first part of your observation is true, that those that got FISIP should contribute, not contribute, should sell back to FRA a minimum of 10 bags. But I think it is the way we, otherwise they risk being removed from FISIP. I think that's what you said. And I agree with you. This is the statement and this is the position. But let us not always take something like blanket statement. We are already aware that 84 districts have been affected and they have had no harvest. So government cannot ask from those who have no harvest. I hope it is understood. Those who have no harvest, because we are all aware, that's why we are saying 84 districts, because we know Chadiza, maybe Chadiza had rain. So why should they want to behave like Nkeema? If they had, I'm not saying facts when I use your constituents. All of us here must be responsible to speak to our own constituents. Because I've been to one constituency, madam, where somebody was saying, even here, we must get relief. And there was rain in that particular, constituent district. And I said, what is this? Indeed, like Pambasha. Why should it's him who has told me to say Pambasha? But what I'm saying is very important, madam. It is important that as members, we make our own people understand that there was rain here. So you have no reason for failure. Can you say, well, I even thought they were too kind. They should have gone even up to 20. But 10 only. That is what you say. Well, the rest you can, you must ensure, and this also, madam, allow me to say this to this august house. Each one of us, where there was rain, please, and even for the future, and even last year we were saying this, ensure household food security. Tell people not to sell everything. It is a new culture. How did we grow up? We were not buying, but now you find a person has grown 100 bags, sells everything. Tomorrow they line up, they want relief. We are bringing a culture that must not be allowed. So where the rains were, this is where it applies, where the harvest was. If Chadiza had completely no harvest, surely where do you expect them to get this? I'm not saying Chadiza had no rains. I'm saying if Chadiza had no rains, it is proven, it is known. How can people say, give us 10 bags? Those are the people who will get the 10 bags from Kaputa. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Kantanshi, Kamufuri, I'll come back to you.
Most grateful, Madam Speaker. Honorable Madam Speaker, I was carefully listening to the Vice President's response on the measures that are being taken for this hunger situation as a response from the MP for Wacha. I just wanted to make it clear, Your Honored Vice President, that we have already started receiving complaints because Ministry of Community Development, as we speak right now, has already done the selections. And Madam Speaker, why I felt compelled to ask this question is because last week I had a group of women who were complaining that they had not been in their residences when community development was going round. So there were cases where these people had gone in the field, and when they came back, their friends had been selected, but themselves were not. And when I went further to ask the PS how this selection is going, she just said we cannot feed everybody. Now for us, as you said, politicians, we're here to represent our people. So what responses are we going to be giving if we are not involved in the selection process? And in the 8 years I've been here, Madam Speaker, I've bemoaned the fact that community development, speaking for myself from Kantanshi, even the CWACs that are selected to help in identifying vulnerable people, as members of parliament, we don't know them. So why can't they copy the model that is under Ministry of Local Government of the WDCs and how they function, so that there is greater transparency and clarity on who is a beneficiary and who is not. So maybe the question would be, Your Honor the Vice President, how soon can you allow us members of parliament, the people's representatives, to be part of this selection exercise, or at least have as much accurate information as possible to help the government know what is happening on the ground? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Her Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the honorable member. For me, this is still feedback that we need, because we can think we have done things, and yet in the implementation, there are issues. And that's why, thank you that we are sitting. But maybe the question is how soon. We must do it soonest, if it is possible, even next week. But I don't want to give a date that I fail, because we need information that you are speaking to. So that, because you are representatives of the people, so that we can look at that. But remember, in this meeting, we will see as identified the constituencies that are affected. I don't know whether there is a limit. I have to find out a little more on the cash for work. How much limit is there? Who came? Because when I see the example, Honorable, I see strong women who were able to be in the field while others were registering. So if these people need support, it can almost only be cash for work and then buy food. So indeed, it can be as soon as next week, but we have to do the logistical, support to this. And yes, feedback is important. We haven't said everything done is cast in concrete. But remember, indeed, I agree with the PS that we can't feed everybody, and I said that myself. But it has to be the very vulnerable. And the members of parliament, madam, will do a great job if they can be sincere. Because the honorable talked of politicians, like almost accusing my party of being in the forefront of distribution of food. And I can also speak to these members of parliament. We have seen certain behaviors, even from this level, that when you have a responsibility, you want to start by your own. I can use this to give feedback. In certain constituencies, CDF is being said to go to certain political affiliations. Others are not getting. That is wrong. When a program is national, let it be national. So even when the MPs said we would want to be part of it, I pray that they will also not go there and be political and start with their chairman. That will not be allowed. On the CWAC, I think we have to learn. If the MP is ignorant of how CWAC comes in place, I think then we need to learn. That's another thing. Because we cannot be super centralized. The MP will not be in every community to identify. That's why CWAC, as a very local, institution, was picked to be able to help. But maybe we will meet, probably, if we can manage, even next week. Thank you.
Thank you. The honorable member for Mufrira.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. Your Honor, the Vice President, there is a terminology on the streets now, which Zambians are referring to as Fialungula. Basically, loosely translated, that the hardships that the Zambians are going through is beyond redemption. And people are feeling detached from what the government should do to support them. Your Honor, the Vice President, the food basket at 10,400 kwacha is beyond the reach of many Zambians. The electricity crisis is unbearable, especially for those that run their own businesses. The corruption that is involving government institutions, as reported by the FIC, it seems that it's now endemic in the government. Your Honor, the Vice President, even internet connectivity, phone calls, it's becoming a problem now. Some people to survive, they have to make phone calls. Some people to survive, they have to be connected to internet.
Honorable member, ask your question. You are debating now. Ask your question, please.
That is why, Madam Speaker, Zambians are feeling left out, hence coining this term, Fiarungula. And when they complain, they are told to work hard. How can they work hard when there's no power? How can they work hard when they don't have internet connectivity? The question to you, Madam Vice President, where is the government to salvage the situation the Zambians are going through? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the Honorable Member from Fulira who calls Fialungula a technology. It's a technology. Oh, terminology. Okay. Fialungula. I think this is something people saw. People saw when things were really, let us say all things being equal. When the environment was okay, when the water was in the Kariba, when electricity could be produced, there was no electricity. It is extremely sad that sometimes we want to do politics where there is no need. This government is aware of the difficulties of the economy, which is not their own making. This government has done all that is possible and continues to work hard to ensure that the lives of our people are preserved, sustained, and in the future thrive. It doesn't matter here. This is reality. If some government was in place, madam, what would have happened? What would have happened? You want to talk about corruption? Is it a new terminology too? Corruption was more rife. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If there is corruption now, this government has said we will fight corruption, past, present, future. Yes. You don't have to agree with it, but this is the statement and this is the way we are looking at these things. Why do you think we were talking about, for example, the drought response? Is it not because we are aware of the difficulties of the economy? Don't make it easy, Honorable Member from Fulira, to just talk. Do you have an alternative? You want to be government in waiting. You want to convince people that you can do better when you failed to do well when things were okay. That is true. That is true. Honorable. You see, nobody's going. We are here. Yeah. So the issue of electricity, you cannot talk about that. The failure starts with you.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable member for Bwengwa. You are even in the wrong place. Can you allow her honor the Vice President to answer the question? She is able to do that. And let's listen. Her honor the Vice President.
Thank you, madam. It is really sad. And there is nowhere to come to. The Zambians, come on, Zambians don't forget. And when you want to start politicking, they also know that you are doing it just to make yourselves look relevant. This government is working. The difficulty is it this government which created the debt that we are struggling with? You are talking of drought. Did this government create the drought? No, colleagues. Madam, this government is working. The people are observing. And don't you go on the path of instigating riots. You don't. Because that is an illegality. And an illegality will be made by the law. Yeah. But we are a democratic people. You are talking, you are saying things. Madam, I can't get what the Honorable is talking about, because there is no creation in the things that he has said of this government. This government is working to correct the things and make the lives of our people better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At least we had 12 honorable members asking questions, much better. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Health to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Health. Before we proceed, there is a point of order. Sorry, Honorable. What is the point of order, Honorable Member from Pika?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, during the Vice President's question time, I asked a question and I cited examples of grand corruption and referred to an article by an anti-corruption commissioner, Dr. Obrien Kava. I even said this confirms existence of grand corruption in the current government. Then I asked the question to Honor the Vice President, is this government's fight against corruption selective, since the current corruption is not being fought? I recall Honor the Vice President did not answer this part of the question, whether the current government's fight against corruption is selective. Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence because I still need the question to be answered. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The challenge that I see is, honorable members, when you start asking questions, you ask more than one question. Each honorable member is entitled to ask at least one question. So when you ask so many questions, Her Honor the Vice President will pick one and will not be able to exhaust all your questions. If you still feel aggrieved, honorable member, put in a question, because we still have a process whereby you can put in a question instead of raising a point of order. So, honorable member from Pika, please put in a question specifically to address that issue. Now, I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Health to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you most sincerely for the opportunity to render a ministerial statement to update this August House and the general public on the influenza and COVID-19 situation in the country. Madam Speaker, during this time of the year, when the weather is cold and dry, it is expected to see an increase in respiratory infections. As a result, our surveillance and disease intelligence wings under the Ministry of Health continues to conduct routine surveillance of diseases of public health significance. Further, we have surveillance of influenza in selected sites under the National Influenza Center, operating under the University Teaching Hospital Virology Laboratory. These sites are in Chipata, Livingstone, Lusaka, Nakonde, Ndola, and Solwezi. Madam Speaker, we have thus seen an upsurge in the number of respiratory infections as we have been monitoring the trends of reported respiratory infections and influenza-like illnesses. I wish to inform the general public that following the analysis over the last 4 weeks of the 373 samples collected from our influenza surveillance sites in Chipata, Livingstone, Lusaka, Nakonde, Ndola, and Solwezi, 35, representing 9%, were positive for influenza. Specifically, 21, representing 6%, were positive for H1N1. 12, representing 3%, were positive for H3N2, and 2, representing 0.5%, were positive for influenza B. Of the 35 positive samples, the majority, 15, were from persons aged 18 to 49 years, while 13 were under 5 years of age. None of the samples came from persons aged over 50 years. Madam Speaker, as of today, the 12th of July, 2024, we have 13 patients admitted to the University Teaching Hospital. That's a total of 13 persons, of which 11 are at UTH, 2 at Levy Hospital, with severe forms of pneumonia caused by influenza and coronaviruses. All these 13 individuals are receiving oxygen as part of their management. Only one, however, is in critical condition. We unfortunately lost one male patient who also had severe pneumonia caused by influenza and another bacterial infection. Madam Speaker, influenza, commonly known as the flu, is a contagious respiratory illness caused by influenza viruses. There are 4 main types of influenza viruses. These are A, B, C, and D influenza viruses. However, the types that commonly infect humans and cause seasonal epidemics are influenza A and influenza B. Influenza A viruses, however, are further classified into subtypes such as H1N1 and H3N2. Madam Speaker, influenza viruses spreads mainly through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes, as well as through close contacts such as handshakes and hugs. The virus can also survive on surfaces and objects, but for a short time. Therefore, if a person touches a surface that has the influenza virus on it, and these surfaces could be a door handle or a light switch or a tissue that has been used, and then you touch your nose, you touch your mouth or eyes, then you can easily become infected. Influenza can cause mild to severe illnesses. Symptoms usually come on suddenly. People who have influenza will often feel some or all of the signs and symptoms as follows. 1, fever or feeling feverish, chills. Or 2, coughing. 3, sore throats. 4, runny or stuffy nose. 5, muscle or body pains. 6, headaches. 7, fatigue, what you would call body tiredness. And lastly, some people may have vomiting and diarrhea, though this is more common among children and children more than adults. Madam Speaker, most people who get influenza will recover in a few days to less than 2 weeks. Some people, however, develop complications such as pneumonia, some of which can be life-threatening and result in death, as was the case with the patient we've just talked about. Other complications are ear infections and inflammation of the heart, brain, or muscle tissues. Influenza can infect anyone regardless of age. However, the severity of the illness and the risk of complications can vary significantly among different age groups. High-risk age groups include young children under 5 years old and the elderly, pregnant women, and people with chronic health conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart disease, and weakened immune systems. Madam Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to also update the House on the COVID-19 situation in the country. I'm aware that people remain quite anxious whenever there is a spike in respiratory infections, and understandably so, especially given our recent experience with the COVID-19 pandemic. We have continued, however, to separately monitor the COVID-19 trends and have seen a slight increase in the weekly positivity of samples being tested for COVID-19, from 1.5% to 2.8% positivity. Specifically, our recent data indicates that out of 322 samples that were tested for COVID-19, 9 samples representing 2.8% were positive. When we look at our monthly trends between the month of May and June, we tested 3,070 samples, and of these, 74, representing a 2.4%, were positive. Of the positive samples, 43 came from Lusaka province, 9 from the Copperbelt province, 7 from Southern province, 6 each from Central and Luapula provinces, 2 from Eastern province, and 1 from Northern. Muchinga and Western provinces did not record any positive cases. Cumulatively, between January and June of this year, we have recorded a total of 4,770 cases. The top 5 districts from which these cases were reported are as follows: Chingola 478, Lusaka 451, Kabwe 433, Kalulushi 213, and Chililabombwe 196. Madam Speaker, our experience with recent outbreaks such as cholera and COVID-19 has gone a long way in teaching and reminding us of the importance of good hygiene and respiratory etiquette. These very habits are critical to prevent the spread of influenza. We are, therefore, all encouraged to continue to implement preventive measures, including the usual: wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Use hand sanitizer if soap and water are not available. 2, cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or your elbow when you cough or sneeze. Dispose of used tissues properly. 3, regularly clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. 4, avoid close contact. Stay away from people who are sick. If you are sick, stay home to prevent spreading the illness to others. And if you are infected and need to go out in public, always wear a mask. We do not currently have influenza vaccines in our national immunization schedule, Madam Speaker. But we do have COVID-19 vaccines, and those eligible are hereby encouraged to get immunized to protect themselves against severe disease and bad outcomes. Madam Speaker, this government, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia, is committed to ensuring the health and safety of our people and to providing timely public health information to prevent the spread of diseases like influenza. As a result, we have activated the detection of these viruses and other germs or pathogens at the University Teaching Hospital using a multi-disease diagnostic platform. These platforms will be opened in other provincial centers around the country. In fact, in all the remaining. These platforms will be able to detect many pathogens, not just these viruses. Further, we have put all our health facilities to be on high alert for suspecting and screening for these infections. Management plans have been refined and dedicated spaces have been created for managing our people. In addition, we've made sure that we have constant and adequate availability of oxygen. We have also activated the procurement of specific medicines for the treatment of influenza. We have further made sure that we have commodities needed for the management of COVID-19 and other respiratory bacterial infections which are currently circulating around the country. I wish to use this opportunity to call upon all health workers to please monitor closely those infected by these viral infections and make early detection and early appropriate management. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I also call upon colleagues in this House and members of our community to follow the guidelines on hand hygiene and cough etiquette and reporting early to health facilities when unwell. We can indeed work together to reduce the impact of influenza and related illnesses in our communities. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members are now free to ask points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Health. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, we have an institution that is charged with a responsibility to safeguard Zambia's health security through disease intelligence and emergency preparedness. That is the Zambia National Health of Public Institute. Madam Speaker, my follow-up question to the Honorable Minister of Health is, how capacitated is this institution and your office to detect diseases to avoid a big number of people contracting such diseases? Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, in the statement, I clearly did state that we are capacitated to a certain extent and that we have put plans to ensure that we improve by ensuring that all provinces are capacitated as such in the surveillance. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister for Kasama. Oh, sorry. The Honorable Member for Kasama.
Honorable Minister for Kasama.
I receive in Jesus' name. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for your elaborate statement. In your statement, you have informed this House that Northern Province recorded one case. One case was recorded not because the pandemic has not yet reached, but the issue is that there's either no test kits or no reagents. I wanted to find out when the ministry would be able to dispatch the necessary testing toolkits into the Northern Province and other provinces that are not yet equipped. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, in my statement, I did indicate that all provinces, the case studies covered all the 10 provinces. That means some test kits were used. Indeed, the test kits may not be that much, but sufficient enough to help us do our work. So it is not true to say there is completely nothing in the Northern Province, because this report shows that Northern Province was covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
I appreciate Madam Speaker for the opportunity once again given to ask a follow-up question to the Minister of Health. Honorable Minister, in an event that the current influenza turns into full-blown COVID, similar to the one that we experienced in 2019, how prepared is your ministry to combat the epidemic, considering the fact that the country is grappling with a lot of financial challenges, especially as a result of the drought that we're just experiencing? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It is, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. It is for that reason, Madam Speaker, that as a Minister of Health, we continuously inform the public of the situation, the health situation on the ground, and we also appeal to members of Parliament, the general public, to take the necessary precautions. Because the budget of a country is not endless. And for Zambia now, with the drought, obviously it means that we can have more challenges if the spread became big. So we need to take the necessary precautions, avoiding handshaking, avoiding using your hands which are dirty when you are eating, ensuring you wash your hands, ensuring all those simple, cheap preventive measures are taken. Let's avoid hugging. Let's avoid being in crowded places. This is a cold season. We must take precaution, keep ourselves warm. Let's do the things that a normal person would do. Not, you know it's cold, you go in a short dress or short-sleeved shirt. You let the children go without a jersey. Yes, I know we have vulnerable children that it may not be warm because of the situation. That is why, as a society, as a government, as one people, we need to live in an environment of one Zambia, one nation, humanity, adopt Kaunda's spirit of humanism, where one cares about the other one, and good values which are in our constitution of good citizenship. To do things that are good to one another, to support each other and look after yourselves, not doing only useless things like what we normally see sometimes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, the use of the word useless things in the context, maybe you can use another word?
I meant, sorry, Madam Speaker, I withdraw that word useless and replace it with the word doing things that don't help, especially in a Christian nation. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Chipiri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I wanted to find out whether you have recorded any death caused by this disease so far. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable. Madam Speaker, I did indicate that we had one death recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Minister, for that wonderful statement. The people of Solwezi East would want to just make an understanding out of your statement, because we have seen that antibiotics are medicine that fight infections caused by bacteria. We have also seen that the influenza virus or the flu that we are talking about is caused by the virus. And there's a tendency of people, when they get these flu symptoms, just walking over the counter and buy medicine. Sometimes they buy antibiotics and they take. We know that antibiotics are not used for the treatment of influenza virus. And it should be noted that taking antibiotics may make one, when they are not needed, may actually make one risk getting an infection later in life, which will be resistant to antibiotics. What advice do you have for people who just feel these symptoms, then they go over the counter and get this medicine, antibiotics, instead of antiviral drugs for the treatment of flu? What advice do you have for them so that we avoid the complications of resistance to antibiotics in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Dr. Somebody. What's his name? Honorable Katakwe. I know he's also a doctor. For that very important question, and I also want to thank you because...
Honorable Member. Maybe, Honorable Minister, you can withdraw that word somebody. We don't want it on the... hazards, maybe.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I withdraw the name. The name just went. That's what I was trying to ask.
Okay.
Honorable Member.
Thank you.
I wanted to say, I also wanted to just indicate that actually he's a medical doctor, and I also wanted to appreciate his question, which actually, in his question, he has helped me to answer actually that question, and I hope that members here and those listening have understood that question and what he has said. Basically, what he has said is the negative impact of, first of all, self-prescription. And unfortunately, Zambians, we have that tendency, all of us. When you get sick or your child is sick, you decide that the child is coughing, I'm going to get a cough mixture. Or, my chest is hot, I'm going to get an antibiotic. It's only in this country where people give antibiotics on the desk in a shop. It's not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to have a prescription from a doctor who has said, your sickness, this is the tablets that you must take. That's why, Madam Speaker, today we have a lot of our citizens, when they get sick, even when the doctor prescribes a certain antibiotic, it doesn't work on their body. Because in the past, they went and bought these antibiotics or these drugs, other drugs, and drank them to make themselves get well. Yes, they may even have gotten well, but in the process of getting well, they would have destroyed their own immunity. I'm using a basic language for people like myself so that one can understand. So do not self-prescribe. Don't give children drugs or medicines which have not been advised by a qualified nurse or doctor or medical officer. So please don't take antibiotics. They are the worst killers of your immunity. And there is now a big topic of antimicrobials, the issue of taking drugs which you should not be taking and killing your body. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable, for that question.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Honourable Minister, you spoke about humanism or for the children who go to school without wearing a jersey or what. Madam Speaker, in areas like Chiengi, we have school-going children whose parents cannot afford to buy them school jerseys. And also here on the urban, urban or peri-urban, my question to the Minister is, what are the measures the Ministry of Health is taking to help or to prevent the spreading of this influenza? As we're talking, Madam Speaker, in the what we call creche, most of babies are now having this kind of flu. So I would like to find out, as the ministry, what are the measures that they are taking? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable, for your follow-up question. What is the Ministry of Health doing? The Ministry of Health, within their mandate, is ensuring that we give health education to the citizens of this country to ensure that they are aware that when you don't keep warm, you get sick. And as much as possible, try not to expose yourself. And when anybody gets sick, we also make sure that we manage that sickness as well as we can do. Now, there are other sectors of government whose mandate is to look after the welfare of the very poor citizens, including children. That is the Ministry of Community Development. And of course, there's also, for example, the Ministry of Education that does other things to try and help children, that may be coming from poor families. I'm aware, for example, the school feeding program, that is to help children to remain nutritiously healthy so that they can continue to be in class. So, and of course, we are aware that the church, traditional leaders, civic leaders, even you yourselves, members of parliament, the community and other organizations, both local and international development partners that support children that are in need. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister, she keeps emphasizing on we keep ourselves home and clean, bearing in mind that there are some areas in Zambia, Minister, that are experiencing the load shedding for more than 24 hours. And those areas depend on the bore water. And you also spoke about tissues and the rest. How do you expect the citizenry that are in those places and they are deeply affected by the load shedding and they are not having the access to water, how do you expect them to keep clean so that they don't suffer from this kind of diseases? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. How do I expect people without water because of load shedding to wash their hands? Really? Is that a question, Madam Speaker? Because, Madam Speaker, it is a known fact that even here where we are seated as members of parliament, we do have members of parliament who get that affected. But because I do not have water in my house, because of load shedding, or I've been switched off, I don't have money, cannot be the reason why any normal person can say, therefore, do not wash your hands, because I don't have water.
Order. The use of the word normal, Honorable Minister, in the context that it was used.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I withdraw that word. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And sorry, Honorable. I don't mean really to demean my colleagues. Maybe it's the wrong use of a word, normal. Let me think of a word. Really, I think as leaders, what I wanted to say, it is not good, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker, in the questions we ask, we build, we help, we inform. It is as if the honorable member is trying to justify that this drought, therefore, people should not be washing their hands because they don't have water, because the electricity is not there. You know, Madam Speaker, we must help each other. These are the things I keep talking about. You know, you can't say, how do you expect people? There's a drought and there's no electricity. So you are saying people should wash their hands before they eat. Surely, Madam Speaker. So I really am sorry, Honorable, but Madam Speaker, I want to use this opportunity that let us help our people to understand that if you don't wash your hands when there's a disease, you shake hands, you will get sick. And my role as Minister of Health is to inform people according to what the issue of health dictates. There are other people now who should come in to ensure, even the Minister of Water and the Minister of ZESCO, Energy. I say these words so that they can budget appropriately and ensure that other alternatives are put in place. That's why when there was cholera, the Minister of Water had to put tanks, had to stop people from paying fees because he understood at that stage that there was a problem. But let's not use this House to misinform the public, to make them become rebellious individuals, as if it is somebody's fault that there's a drought. These are natural calamities and we need to work together. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm sorry, Honorable.
Yes, Honorable Member for Pambashe, there's a point. What's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I may not be conversant with the current standing orders, but clearly imputing the wrong motives on the member. My point and the question I raised was to ask the Minister on how people that are affected by the long hours of load shedding How can government help them? And then she turns and imputes the wrong motives on me because she has access to water, she has access to electricity 24/7, and she thinks every Zambian is benefiting the same way she's benefiting. And then she begins imputing and saying, a normal person, maybe she's suffering with...
Now, let's not go that way. Let's not go that way, Honorable Member for Pambashe. Just make your point. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we expect, Madam Speaker, to be members of Parliament who are the honorable members of Parliament. And when I raised that question, I never imputed wrong motives. I was looking for the minister to provide for, at least to assure the people, those that are affected, on what alternatives they can do to keep themselves healthy. And then she comes and imputes wrong motives and said, no, I'm inciting people and doing this. Is the minister in order to impute wrong motives on me? Whose idea I never concealed, Madam Speaker.
The honorable members, when the minister was answering, she was guided and she apologized. I think she was just trying to explain an issue where there is no water. Honorable member for Pambashe, when you have no power, this is now guidance from me. When you have no power and you have no water, please make sure that you put some water on the side so that you can wash your hands. So that the issue of drought and you cannot be used for you to not to wash your hands. This just goes without saying that we need to keep water on the side, just by way of guidance. Maybe some people have forgotten that you need to reserve water, like we used to do in the villages. Because every time you want to go to wash your hands, you don't have to rush to the well. You need to have a bucket of water reserved for cooking, for washing hands, and for drinking. So let's maintain harmony in the house. Let's make progress. For the guidance of the honorable member for Pambashe, who wanted to be guided on in terms of what standing order you wanted to refer to, is standing order 71-2A. For future, the honorable member for Mandevu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My gadget has been destroyed by a colleague. Otherwise, thank you for the opportunity. For the sake of our people in Mandevu.
What gadget has been destroyed?
This one. That's why I'm receiving help from the Minister of Kasam.
Okay. But there is no Minister of Kasam, unfortunately. It was just a slip of the tongue. Honorable members, also, as you talk, please don't play around with the mic, because that's how they are breaking. You may proceed, as you are being helped by the honorable member for Kasam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The people of Mandevu are confused by the statement that was just given by the Minister of Health. She was talking about influenza A, B, C, HN. Our worry with our population is the COVID. How deadly is it? Is the ministry downplaying the COVID, which she has just said is there? Why isn't the ministry, there was a question on what measures, and she answered that they are giving education on the influenza. We know, Madam Speaker, that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, and when you have COVID, either you die or you'll be sick for more than 14 days. And so if we take preventive measures through sensitization by the ministry, like it's been done in the past, I think we'll be able to work together. Why aren't we seeing heightened sensitization on the outbreak of COVID, Honorable Minister of Health? Why are we downplaying the spread of COVID? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Firstly, there should be no confusion because I was very clear, Madam Speaker. In my statement, there was an issue of the influenza. And then there was another issue of COVID-19. So these are not the same. They are two different illnesses. And I was articulating the disease called influenza and articulating the various kinds of influenza A and B, and also that the A also has sub-varieties, which is the H1N1 and the other one. Forget about those terminology, they're not important. What is important is there's influenza, there's also COVID. And what causes these diseases, I've explained, partly when somebody is coughing in front of your face, or you are touching surfaces, issues of hygiene, the general issues of how personal hygiene matters, because most of these diseases are really caused by dirty hands. Remember last time I kept telling you that dirty hands, cause over 60% of the diseases that we suffer. And what we drink, drinking dirty water, untreated water, water that has not been boiled and warmed up for you to drink, unsafe water, causes diseases. And I was saying there is, especially during this period of time when it's cold, people easily get those things. That's what I was talking about. So maybe, Honorable, you may not have paid attention. I also explained what we do as Ministry of Health. Of course, there are other issues of water supply. It's not our duty to supply water. It's the government's duty, but through another sector ministry. So I explain what we do as Ministry of Health. And one of the issues is informing you, using different platforms. Like I'm doing now, this is part of sensitization. Madam Speaker, we do have community health workers, and we're going to employ more this year. In fact, starting this month, we'll be giving them contracts for 3 years, thanks to our cooperating partners who are supporting us, and of course to the government of the Republic, under the able leadership of His Excellency. We realize health workers on the community help us to do prevention, because they go around door to door to teach. And all that is an effort. On TV, you see these captions coming. It's not cheap, they come with a fee. So we are doing our best, and that's why you are here. When I give this statement, when you go back, instead of politicking too much, let's use these development messages to our community. Let's have meetings, such meetings. You're a ward councillor, you're an MP, you're a minister. Let's go out and talk to our people. Explain to them. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Wacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Honourable Minister, few days ago, I saw an update on ZNBC that is on COVID-19 statistics. Between January to June 2024, stands at 4,470, and also as confirmed by you, Honourable Minister, in your statement. Madam Speaker, 4,470 is a very big number in terms of statistics. My question to the Minister is, why has your ministry not been updating the nation, even on monthly basis, on the cumulative COVID-19 cases, other than waiting for an opportunity by Madam Speaker to give you a slot to issue a ministerial statement? 4,417, Honourable Minister, is a very huge, very big number. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. As the time is 10:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Good morning. Thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. Business of the House has been suspended for a 20-minute health break, and so we expect business of the House to resume at 11 hours, and the House is considering a ministerial statement that has been delivered by the Minister of Health. This is on the influenza and the COVID-19 situation in the country, and members of Parliament are seeking points of clarification from the Minister. And at the time business was being suspended, the Minister of Health was about to respond to a supplementary question that has been raised by Kwacha Member of Parliament, Mr. Sidney Mushanga. And so when business resumes at 11 hours, we expect the House to continue considering this ministerial statement.
And we take a look at some of the business that has been considered so far. From the time business resumed at 09 hours, Madam Speaker did make one announcement in which she recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Shakespeare College in Kabulonga, Lusaka district. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly, and thereafter we did see the House consider one urgent matter without notice, that is under Standing Order 142. And after that, Her Honor, the Vice President's question time was considered, and this takes about 45 minutes. This is where Her Honor takes questions without notice. So that's the business that has been considered so far. And just now, we take a break. Do join us on the other side.
Basically, I'm a villager from Monze, the eastern side of Monze district. This is my second term as a member of parliament, serving the good people of Momba constituency. I'm a married man, obviously with one wife, and I have 4 children. In terms of my education, it's important. The primary school I attended at Gasaga primary school in Monze, in my constituency. And after that, I've gone to different institutions, the last one being I did an MBA. My specialty basically has been in business management. I specialize in that. But I must mention also that I've learned quite a lot, being a villager, as I said. Whereby I remember I've gone to school. I spent the whole of my primary school, in fact, without putting on shoes until I was in grade 7. And not because my father could not afford. We had a lot of animals. But I think basically culturally those were things which we were not paying attention to. So I've been in this parliament. This is now my 6th year as a member of parliament. And I think history has it to that. So far I think so good in terms of what I've done for the people of Momba constituency. So Momba constituency is purely rural constituency, eastern side of Monze district. In fact, let me say just from the northwestern all the way to the eastern side of Monze district. My neighbors are Bwenga constituency, Monze Central, Magoye, and Gwembe. So predominantly rural constituency. My people are mainly in agriculture. We do rear animals and farming. We play a key role in feeding Monze district and other parts of the country. In terms of the population, we should be standing around, I think, 40,000 now. As you are aware, we are going to do another census in this year, in fact, in August. So that I think will give us the good numbers. I must mention that also in terms of the geography, my constituency is peculiar in that I have 5 wards. Out of the 5 wards, 2 wards are in the valley, because as I indicated, I share the boundary with Gwembe. Gwembe predominantly is a valley, and then the other 3 districts, wards are also in a plateau setup. So because of that kind of differentiation, even in terms of the terrain, what you need to do here and there differs quite a lot. So that is the coverage. You may be interested that immediately you leave Magoye River, there about after the Magoye Bridge, all that is in my constituency. So the Great North Road coming to Lusaka from Monze, I cover part of the western side of the road, and very near, very close to Monze district, Monze town per se. We are talking about just 3 kilometers from Monze town. Then my constituency begins. But surprisingly so, you may be aware that Momba constituency is one of the smallest constituencies in Monze, in fact in southern province. It's one of the smallest, but terrain-wise is challenging to access some places. For Momba constituency, I want to look at in terms of the priorities. What are our key challenges as a constituency? First and foremost, we are looking at the availability of water, both for human beings, that is clean and safe water to drink for people, and both for the animals. And that, for me, has always been my priority. I've said it, and I want by the time maybe I hammer 2026, God willing, I should have a situation whereby almost each and every village, we have villages, should have a bore. Currently, that is not the case. We still have a lot of our mothers walking long distances in search of water. The same goes with our animals. If you come to Momba constituency, you'll find that we don't have any river, which we call them perennial rivers, which has water throughout. We don't have that. So we rely heavily on dams. And these dams are silted now. So that is our priority number one, the availability of water for our people. And also the road network is nothing to talk about. The roads are quite very, very bad. The schools also. We have quite a number of good schools, but I want also to ensure that some of the community schools we have are upgraded to government school. We don't have desks. Most of the classrooms are no desks. So I can go on and on, but these are the key challenges which is facing us. In developmental-wise, we are still a bit of backward, and now with the increment in terms of the CDF, in fact, makes me to relax a bit in terms of I will have the resources. The challenge now which I have is to work closely with the council to ensure that the development is taken closer to the people. So for the members of the constituency, my word always has been that we need to work as a team. If we work as silos, basically we will not achieve anything. And I'm their representative, but this is their job. Together with me, I have to match with their expectations. So my request to them, and I want to thank them. If I think the most first place, let me thank them that I've worked in an environment that which is very, very good and conducive with my people, those I do represent, and I'm hoping that this will continue.